Welcome to the internet, live from the Marriott Library at the University of Utah. This is the Red Line Podcast. I'm your host, forgot to eat breakfast Dunstan, and these are my co-hosts,
Kyle Holland and
Alex Fielder. Today we're talking about America's heaviest light rail system, the Linked Light Rail in Seattle. We'll talk Ford thrusts, Boeing busts, and more after the news. That rhyming's good.
That was good, right? I know. Good. I was proud of myself. All right.
These lines are up here with the we should build 8/1s.
We should build 8/1s. PSR strikes again this week as Amtrak has been forced to suspend all Adirondack service north of Albany in New York State. The Adirondack, which connects New York City and Montreal, runs over Canadian national rails for the duration of its travels through Canada and parts of northern New York. CN has suspended access to the section of track that they need indefinitely after heat reportedly warped the rails into unusability. The move comes only a few months after the service returned from a 3-year COVID hiatus and raises questions as to the future of cross-border service in the Northeast.
I know we can light rails on fire to keep them from freezing and cracking, but can we put ice packs on them?
So Canadian National is lying.
Oh.
And because the section in Canada that Amtrak runs over is limited to 30 miles an hour because it's jointed. And as, those of us familiar with rail technologies are aware...
Jointed rails do not warp from heat.
Yeah, because...
They have room to expand.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Canadian National is full of shit, and no one's quite sure what is actually going on here, so take everything you hear about it with a grain of salt.
So, this has nothing to do... This is nowhere near the fires, right, in Canada?
No. Those are way far north in, the forests of Quebec.
Well, to answer your question, I've seen videos of giant ice blocks just being run along the tracks, with workers.
There's machines for it as well.
It's bloody
cool.
Hilarious.
It's funny. It's very cartoony.
Amtrak train with an ice block behind it, getting it ready for the next train.
Yeah.
Yeah. Real.
Yeah.
In other news, the Coast Starlight has hit a water truck in California. Stay off the tracks, and if you get stuck, remember to call the number on the little blue sign. Railroad safety is everyone's responsibility.
Yeah.
That's all I got on that one.
Yeah, best way to avoid it.
I have no commentary other than stay off the damn tracks.
Yeah, just don't get stuck.
And if you drive heavy vehicles, know your vehicle. If you drive one of those ones that's full of cars and is 2 inches off the ground, think about that.
If you get stuck while the grade crossing isn't coming down, do call them first.
Yeah, you still have to call the number if you get stuck.
And
call the number, don't call the police first.
Yeah, call the number and they'll
just
dispatch.
Call the dispatch will just
Yeah, they'll call the cops.
Anyway,
and they'll also stop the trains.
The sooner you do it, the better.
Yes.
Yep.
Very true.
Also, get off the track.
Yeah,
don't
stay in your car.
Stay away from your car. Yeah, get away and get upwind of where the train would be coming, so that if it hits it, you don't get hit by shrapnel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, anyway, stay off the tracks, please. We have almost hit so many things this month at Frontrunner, and I would really prefer to not hit anything.
It'd be funny if crossing warning devices, worked.
I mean, even in the UK and Ireland, where they have the weird ones that are actually a barrier,
I've seen
with
still
the
try and get through them. Yeah.
I've seen videos of people trying to climb over those and completely failing and shaking their fist at the train as it blows by because they couldn't get over.
I saw that in real life when I was in England.
Oh my goodness!
I've seen people actually going through them and almost getting hit by trains. So
what's the gate?
I do like the gate design more though.
I think we should adopt it.
I think it's better.
Yeah.
Alternatively, we could do the Dutch thing where puts up bollards.
We don't have the money for that.
We do too. It's just a retractable bollard.
Yeah, also I don't think we really need to...
They have those at the Capitol, fun fact.
Oh yeah, for the parking or whatever?
No.
Just so people don't drive?
Yeah, so people don't drive onto the plaza unless they want you to.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So anyway, we gotta get those.
Yeah.
Yeah, combined with... So that'll handle the cars, and then the UK quad gates will handle pedestrians.
I think we should just teach people how to...
Should be a day in school where you get shown pictures of people getting hit by trains.
They have that in driver's ed for, crashing your car, and they're like, pretty please drive good, thanks, see you next week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We could totally do that for trains, and there would actually be an actionable takeaway you could get from that.
Could be part of our transit ed program.
Maybe
Whoa.
throw the math at people and just say, "Oh yeah, train is bigger than you.
Yeah,
Train
old-
will
soda can.
pancake
the old
you."
soda can versus car thing.
Uh-huh.
Well, as long as we don't pick a student to be guinea pig for demo.
I mean, that would
That would-
certainly drive the
leave
message
an impression.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah, could do a mannequin or something though. Like go on a test track,
Ooh.
go on like Stadler's test track, and have them like obliterate a mannequin in front
Yeah,
of the
you could
students.
even do that. Well, you could do that just once and film it, and I feel like that would.
Yeah. Well, in person would be a lot more fun.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it would be more like,
It would
Yeah.
get the
Compelling.
message through.
right?
And kids would actually want to see that
yeah.
because
Like,
that would be
Cool.
that'd be quite the sight.
like you get one of those like ones that the Mythbusters use that
Yeah.
have like all the fake Jello and stuff
Yeah,
on them.
the
so-
ballistic ones.
Yeah, ballistic Jello and just explode. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
With the fake bones in them.
no, we should do that. You get like the entire high school population of Salt Lake County, and you set up stands along like a certain stretch of mostly unused Union Pacific rail. You get just a Union Pacific locomotive, nothing else, a dummy on the tracks, go through at like 45 and just watch it explode.
And then bring paramedics so they can be like, yeah, so they have all of their ribs broken. Yeah.
The ribs are in different places in a 50-foot radius.
Uh-huh.
Here's all the ribs.
And then
Look,
the crime scene investigation students can come afterwards and have a good time.
When we get when we hit people at 79, there have been
Oh.
passengers who have reported a red mist coming by the windows. So like you will 50-foot radius of your ribs.
Good thing they've got free counseling for not just staff.
Yes. So
Well, anyway, yeah, better education.
yeah, good
Yep.
idea.
Let's make it happen, Utah.
Yeah.
All right, on to the show since Alex has places to be.
I'm always going places. Busy alley.
Except we're getting there.
next decade,
Maybe
maybe.
we'll see.
Will
so-
permitting.
So, Link Like Rail. It's weird, right? I think it's fair to say that it might be the weirdest mass rail transit system in the United States. Am
Yep.
I wrong?
No,
No,
you're not wrong.
really.
So,
Why don't we just build subways?
Great question. Especially since this is literally a subway, but not trademark.
This is a busway turned subway.
Turned also.
It used to be a
Alternative.
busway.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going to.
It did
collapse.
used to be a busway.
We'll get
Yeah.
into that, right? So the system is currently 26 miles long, has 19 stations, and carries nearly 80,000 riders a day. Quite a vast figure for such a short and, also just one light rail line, right?
Mhm.
Like the only other single light rail line of that length I can think of that carried that many people is the Blue Line in Portland, which is 32 miles long, but it only carried 60,000 people a day
Mhm.
before, Rona.
So how many passengers is that per mile?
I don't know, 2,600.
3,000, which
Yeah.
is like a lot.
That is a lot for light rail.
That's like
That's a lot for several metros in this country, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
It carries more people than the Miami Metro Rail did.
Unsurprising.
I mean, it is also better than the Miami Metro Rail, but we won't
Please.
get into that.
Please pick a bar that nobody's dropped.
In addition, the line is almost entirely grade separated and has wide station spacing that's more indicative of a Great Society metro than a conventional light rail line.
But it's a light
Yeah.
rail.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way
Yeah.
when I was walking between stations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Furthermore, Link operates monster 4-car trains all the time because so many people ride it. These currently come in two types, the Type 1, which were from Kinki Sharyo, which is a Japanese train manufacturer, and Type 2, classic American light rail, Siemens S700s.
They're low floor.
They are low floor.
Why are they low floor?
They're low floor.
You said the system was almost entirely grade separated. Why are the trains low floor?
Reasons.
And aren't the max speed on these things like 55 or 65?
Yes. You're gonna get more frustrated as we go
This
on.
is like the worst option of train.
It also is overcrowded, despite the fact that it runs 8 trains an hour during peak periods, which is more than most actual U.S. metro systems at this point. The LA Metro only runs 4 trains an hour on its lines.
Well, to be fair, there is just one line.
Yes, but also, like, I mean, come on.
Yeah. You know, maybe if they used real trains, they could have more than 4 cars on the train.
Well, maybe if they built the stations for more than 4 cars on the train, that would have been a good idea. But now they're kind of locked into that decision forever, so...
And despite having, like, infinity $billion.
Oh, yeah. They have very close to infinity $1 billion.
They're going to fail to, like, fix this.
Like, they're spending, like, 3/4 of a CHSR on this thing, so... The full build-out of this thing, I should say.
This is yeah, all 5 additional miles, yeah.
No, not quite. It's pretty,
4?
No, more.
Oh, okay.
So, but yes, it does use low-floor rolling stock and has one singular section of street running that lasts about a half mile.
And for all this money, we can't grade separate that.
I don't know why they didn't just grade separate in the first place, given it's the only section of any link line that is ever planned to not be fully grade separated.
Despite the large amounts of just straight-up subway tunnel on this system.
And viaduct, a lot of viaduct on Link.
Yeah.
So simultaneously, it has most of the infrastructure and operating characteristics of a full-fledged metro line and the lower capacity vehicles and speeds of a light rail line.
We've covered what the hell is Link Light Rail. Next question, why the hell is Link
What
Light
is Link
Rail?
Light Rail?
Yeah.
So how do we get here?
Good question.
The
Yes,
train.
very good question.
The monorail subway.
No, that's actually a whole different thing.
Oh.
Kyle is correct. In the 1960s, after they built the monorail for the World's Fair, Seattle had like 5 different proposals of people being like, hey, we should expand it to the entire metropolitan region because that's the future trademark.
That would have been
I
funny.
believe we covered this in our... Did we do a monorail episode?
We did
or was
it was in the Gadget Bond
Okay.
episode.
Yeah.
So that's episode, what, 26?
Brilliant question.
I don't know. We have so many now.
Good thing we have a website.
Yeah, look it up.
10.
10?
Yeah,
wow,
that
that's
was
a long
early.
time ago now.
Yeah.
That episode I remember doing very poorly at the time as well.
How dare you?
Gadget Bond.
Yeah.
But the real reason that we are where we are is a thing called forward thrust, and I've titled this section, quote, Forward Thrust and the Ghost of the Seattle Metro, and various monorails.
Okay, what is capital forward, capital thrust?
Good question. So, as we've discussed before, the 1960s was the era of the new American Metro. Cities from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco were breaking ground on new systems, and many in Seattle wanted in on the action. So, like, you get you get San Francisco being like, hey, we're Barton, and it's pretty chill. And you get D.C., and they're like, hey, we're Metroing, and it's pretty awesome. And you get no one else, but they were sure doing stuff. And so the 60s was a really good time for Seattle because of Boeing, right? So let's think about what's going on in the 60s in a worldwide context, right? We have, number one, the Vietnam War. So you got a lot of defense spending. And Boeing builds airplanes, which you use to bomb innocent villagers in Vietnam.
Boeing also builds trains.
Boeing... No, we do not discuss the Vertol ever again. And also, the space race is happening. And so Boeing is just getting oodles of money from the feds to build space crap.
Yeah.
Because we will go to the moon in this decade, not because it is easy, but because it is hard.
And therefore, Boeing go burr. And economy go burr.
And Seattle's economy went burr. There are just oodles of people moving in, and there's lots more traffic all of a sudden, and the population is growing, housing is expensive. Wonder where we've heard this story before. Seattle today, cough, cough. So...
Yeah, Seattle, stop being cool.
Yeah, very, very bad. Not good. Don't
Don't
grow.
Don't be like Seattle.
Yeah.
Don't.
No.
Be more like Utah.
Be more like San Francisco. That was a joke. Do not. So thus, Forward Thrust, which was a citizen committee, was formed. They pushed a number of initiatives for things like parks. They actually ended up passing what was at the time the largest single park spawned in history, a new sports arena where the Mariners originally played, and fire departments, highway funding, all sorts of crap. Just general, like, our city is growing, let's make it better.
It sounds like the Seattle New Deal.
It kind of, yeah, that's actually a really good way of putting it. It was this kind of the Seattle New Deal. And the largest and most controversial measure was Metro Proposition 1, a nearly $1 billion program that would build a rapid transit system for the Seattle region. U.S. Senator Warren Magnuson had already obtained an $800 million earmark from federal funding to build a rapid transit system for Seattle. All that Sound region voters needed to do was approve local funding for the rest.
And
Okay, so
local funding would have been
$300 million.
okay. So
A lot of money.
not even most of it though.
No, but still a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right?
okay,
Still
so
a lot.
they're like basically 80% covered by the feds, and they're already on a spending spree for like infrastructure and such.
It sounds like it should be a no-brainer.
Slam dunk.
Yeah.
This is like a slam dunk project, it sounds like.
Yeah. 12 such initiatives were put on the ballot in 1968, of which 7 were successful. The Metro Initiative was not among them. Why? Just like in California, all of the initiatives needed a 60% approval rating to pass.
60% does not make sense for funding measures.
And this wasn't like the Muni Metro plan, which got like 59-41 or whatever. This was like 52-48, but it still passed. It just didn't.
Yeah.
Once again, 60% does not make sense for funding measures.
Is it still this way?
No, Washington has stopped being stupid.
Good.
60% of the population does not have to be like running out their front door yelling in support of a proposition for it to be useful to somebody.
So
I don't know. I feel like the majority will of the voters should maybe be reflected.
Interesting.
So if we didn't have the 60% to pass, we probably could have had a fantastic system.
Seattle would have had
Maybe
Seattle
MARTA.
BART.
Yeah.
Seattle
BART.
would have had MARTA, because you know where this money went after the Seattle Metro failed?
MARTA.
MARTA. The Seattle Metro money built the Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transportation Authority. So Seattle would have, would have had a proper metro.
So Seattle would have been fantastic.
Yeah, even better than it already is, right?
Yeah.
But the remaining initiatives were put back on the ballot in 1970. So they're like, all right, well, Metro didn't pass the first time around. Let's give it another chance. Maybe people were just not happy. But then the Boeing Bust, which is actually like worldwide famous for how bad it was in Seattle for like 2 years in the early 1970s.
Because half their economy was Boeing.
Yeah. No, I'm not even kidding. Like, they had 85,000 Boeing jobs in Seattle one day, and the next day, 20,000.
Was this...
And everyone that was laid off from Boeing, another person was laid off from a different job because all that economic activity from Boeing had left. So, like, 300,000 jobs just overnight.
What was this because of recession or pulling out of the war or?
So as federal spending in Vietnam and the space race dwindled, Boeing had to lay off an absolute metric crap ton of workers to pay for its $2 billion debt on the 747 project. And they would eventually come back from that, but like they had a lot of debt and and it wasn't selling very well at first because nobody was sold on the concept because everyone still thought supersonic travel was the future and not large subsonic planes. So for a while, Boeing was on really thin ice from the 747 until everyone realized that the Concorde was a pipe dream and started buying 747s in masse.
Mm-hmm.
And it continues to be a good plane.
Yeah. Still one of the better planes ever made, yeah.
Yeah.
Unemployment rose to 14%.
Isn't this supposed to be like 5?
5 is good. 10 is considered very bad. 10 is like 2008 recession bad.
It was
I mean-
20% in the Great Recession, right?
In the Great Depression.
Depression, sorry.
Yeah.
Great
So this
Depression.
is somewhere in between the Great Recession and the Great Depression within Seattle.
It was bad.
Great.
And housing vacancy rates rose to the same number, which is wild.
Also bad.
Okay.
Population just started like cratering overnight.
Because everybody went places with like jobs or whatever.
Yeah, everyone had to move because they needed to work. And a famous billboard also appeared near the airport, which you've probably seen before, and it said, quote, "Will the last person leaving Seattle turn out the lights?"
I've seen this
Ouch.
before. This is, yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was bad, right?
Bad times
I've
in
seen
Seattle
lots of pictures of
today.
that.
Seattle.
Also, the oil crisis started happening at the same time, which
Oh,
did not
yeah.
help things.
Yeah. Gee whiz, if only they were busy building a giant rapid transit system that would have generated a lot of short-term employment and circumvented the whole
I don't
oil
know if
thing.
it would have helped.
Probably would have
that's like
helped.
It might have crashed, honestly.
5,000. Well, and you see, the trouble is, this is all happening in 1969 to 1971.
Uh-huh.
When is the second round of forward thrust on the ballots?
1970.
Right. So, in a darkened economic atmosphere, the second round of forward thrust initiatives failed as voters became extremely pessimistic about Seattle's future. And this time, it didn't even get a majority; it got 46%.
That, under the circumstances, that's very fair.
Voters and ex-voters who immediately left Seattle thereafter.
yeah, literally. But as it turns out, cities are a little more resilient than people think they are, especially very important port cities like Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Cities that have some like bones.
yeah. And in the following decades, Seattle rebounded and grew actually. Massively as tech companies like Microsoft made the city their home, and before long, all the same old problems had returned. Massive population growth, therefore massive traffic growth, therefore this, that, and otherwise.
So imagine if they built the system, everyone left, and then they came back and they just had a world-class metro.
Well, it probably wouldn't have been finished until the economic bust was over, right? Because the Boeing bust was bad, but it didn't last very long. By like 1975, everything was mostly back to status quo antebellum or whatever.
Still need planes.
Yeah, it turns out plane's good. And the U.S. always has some kind of war going on, so... Not anymore, but we did for a long time.
And now we can just afford to just like directly fund the standing
now we just
army
do
just for
proxy
fun.
wars again.
Now we just give every weapon we own to Ukraine and let them kill Russians with it.
Yeah. And then you got to make more weapons. So
I mean, look.
I can't speak on the matter.
Who's to say if that's bad or not? So voters did actually, once the bus was kind of over, approve the creation of a county-wide bus system known as King County Metro in 1973, and a downtown transit tunnel was eventually approved a few years later in 1987, but it would only be used by buses at first. Because Seattle was never bad at transit like a lot of places are. Like when they got their bus system together, it was instantly really good. And the roads that they had them go on through downtown were so congested with buses and cars, and there was just so much. And they're like, well, we could do the Portland thing of doing a transit mall, or
dig a tunnel.
dig a tunnel.
And this was back in the day when you could dig tunnels.
A bus subway, some might say.
So how long was this tunnel?
1.7 miles.
That's quite big.
It's very wide too.
Probably to fit
Well,
the
the
comically
stations are wide. I should
Because
say,
Probably
yeah.
the comically
The idea
large,
was that you could
bus.
stop a whole bunch of buses in the stations and then still have other buses going by.
You could, you really could.
Bus big.
They're huge stations, and they're all very unique too.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
They all have like different theming. I think there's a 1980. Wait, what's the famous book?
1984?
1984. I think there's a 1984 themed one,
Interesting.
but I don't know for
I
sure.
love
I did not know that. Look that up so we can share where it is if you find it. Also, they used only diesel trolleybus hybrid buses in the tunnel,
that. Probably so you could breathe.
so you could breathe. Yeah, but they would just run as diesel on outer. They would come in off the freeway and then turn into a trolleybus.
That's cool. Did they
It's
ever
pretty cool.
put any above ground electrification anywhere else?
Seattle has the most extensive trolleybus network outside of San Francisco, I think.
Oh,
in
cool.
North America.
It's very
They
impressive.
have a lot of trolley buses.
There we go then.
And also, the station is not 1984 themed. It's just very dystopian.
Oh,
okay.
is it
Yeah.
brutalist looking?
I didn't find a picture. Let me try and find one.
Oh, okay. So yeah, the things continued on for a while, but these buses are all just getting so crowded, and the tunnel's already like carrying 40,000 people a day on buses.
And buses are buses.
And buses are buses, and it turns out they can't hold that many people.
You ready for some Puget Sound puns? That's gonna be like the rest of this episode.
I'm so ready for Puget Sound puns. So then, in 1993, the Washington State Legislature formed the Central Puget Sound Regional Transit Authority, CPSRTA, which is now known as the much less clunky Sound Transit. Congestion and population growth had convinced state legislators that a rail transit system of some sort was needed.
Good thing they have real legislators, unlike Idaho.
Yeah, losers.
Yeah.
The board of this new organization quickly placed a measure before the voters, and in 1996, Sound Move was approved. It would build what is today Link Line 1 between the University of Washington and Seattle-Tacoma Airport.
Sound Move.
Sound Moves. Or maybe it was Sound Move. Oh, it is just Sound Move. It's not even Sound Moves.
Get it? Because it's a sound move.
Ha! Ha! It was. Some might say it was a sound decision. The program also created Sounder, which is the region's commuter rail service, and the Regional Express bus system.
Isn't Sounder like run by BNSF or whatever?
Yes.
Is it any good?
The South Line, yes. The North Line, no.
Cool.
If that makes sense. Because there is no through running, of course.
Of course. Why would we have through running on a train?
Commuter rail. Yeah, they just run on the North Line like 3 10-car commuter trains in the morning and 3 10-car commuter trains out in the night.
Commuter
10
train.
cars. One might think there might be demand for more frequent and daily service, but, you know,
One could think that.
One might.
And they might be correct.
they might.
Yeah.
So construction on Line 1 would begin construction in 2003 after controversy held it back for some time. Its initial segment between Westlake Station and Tukwila would finally open in 2009.
2009.
Yeah. Took like
That's pretty late.
13 years for them to build the thing after they approved it.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into why in a sec.
Okay.
Also, the T-Line, a streetcar in downtown Tacoma, was included in Sound Move and opened in 2003. Seems weird to include a rather short 1.7-mile streetcar in a regional light rail plan, but who am I to judge?
Train go bird.
It's fine with me. Yeah, more service.
Can you guys do this with me? You know, like monorail, monorail, monorail. So Seattle kind of has a thing for monorails.
This is well known.
Yep.
And in 1996, the same year that Sound Move passed, taxi driver named Dick Falconbury passed a citizen initiative to force the county to look into building a region-wide monorail system.
Okay, then. You said monorails were popular.
It passed. Like, just this one guy thought that they should do it. And as we discussed, this wasn't the first monorail proposal. There were like 5 in the 1960s. But the program became somewhat more popular than the actual Link Light Rail proposal. and the city was forced to form the Seattle Monorail Project, which would spend over $110 million in planning and property acquisition between its founding in 1996 and its dissolution in 2005.
That's
Wow.
hilarious. Citizens for the win.
Yeah. And it's part of the reason that Link Light Rail got so delayed is that everyone was like, well, why the hell are we doing that when we could just build the monorail?
Everybody likes the monorail.
Everybody wants the monorail.
Gosh.
That's hilarious.
So everyone thought it would be redundant because the monorail would be better. And also, there was a corruption scandal at Sound Transit, which made everyone like the monorail even more.
Okay.
That's hilarious.
Monorail corruption.
But everyone eventually realized, after all the manufacturers of monorails pulled out because it would be too expensive,
Understandable.
that monorails are not a very good public transportation technology.
It's just a train, but more expensive.
And worse. Yeah.
I would have liked to see Boeing try to make a monorail.
No.
I wonder if they could have butchered that one too.
They could have.
They could have.
They could have. It wasn't all bad, though, because the project's Green Line plan, which was a line between downtown Seattle and the nearby city of Ballard, was eventually incorporated in ST3, Sound Transit 3, which voters passed at the ballot box in 2016. So,
Sweet. That's what
it'll
we're
just be an
on
elevated.
now, right?
Uh,
ST3?
Everything except the original Sound Moves project is still under construction.
Is that the one with the bridge troubles?
That is actually an ST2 project.
Oh, I gotcha.
The floating bridge problems?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't the bridge's fault, though. It was because whoever created the pylons for the rails was an idiot and made them wrong.
Made them concrete, right?
Yeah, they're supposed to be concrete, but, they just
Didn't
do it right.
Yeah.
Great.
We love professionals.
Yeah. So, and while all this crap is going on, Sound Transit expanded the Link Light Rail to Seattle-Tacoma Airport later in 2009 after the initial segment had opened, and then an additional 3.1 miles of mostly subway to the University of Washington in 2016.
Cool.
And much more expansion is planned as the result of, drumroll, ST2, Sound Transit 2, and ST3. So, Sound Transit 2 was passed in 2008, and it authorized mostly expansions to express buses and commuter rail, as well as 36 miles of new Link Light Rail service, which would take it to Linwood, Mercer Isle, Bellevue, and Richmond. So that's kind of to the south and to the east a little ways of,
Quite
downtown
a
Seattle.
lot of ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
honestly.
Yes, a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then that's supposed to be finished sometime in 2033, the whole project.
Cool.
And then Sound Transit 3 proposed 62 miles of new light rail to Everett, to Boeing, to Tacoma, to Boeing.
That checks out.
Further into Redmond, Ballard, Seattle, West Seattle, Kirkland, Bellevue, Issaquah, all sorts of places. It's a big expansion.
Do I want to know the price tag?
I think the total price tag for all Sound Transit projects through 2044, when everything is expected to be done, is $64.2 billion.
That sounds about right.
That's a lot per mile.
Yes, it is. But you have to remember that it isn't just construction funding. It's also operations funding and bus
and buses.
BRT projects and sounder improvements and all sorts of stuff.
And if they're sticking with the basically fully grade separated, except for the one street running section thing, right?
Generally $300 to $400 million a mile, which is a lot, but not a lot.
That's like subway money.
But to be fair, unlike other recent light rail subways, Link actually has capacity.
This is true. But they're
four-car big trains, yeah. And they can run a lot of them through it as well. So it's not perfect, but it's not that bad. And when this is all done, it is planned to be, let's see, I have it here, 116 miles of light rail with 70 stations and 750,000 expected riders per day.
Yeah, that sounds
nice.
That sounds about right.
That is a lot of track and riders.
Well, when you actually have people excited and proud of their system and a good system too, you can do a lot.
Yeah, 750,000 riders per day. For context, the Washington Metro, which is the second most ridden rail transit system in North America, before the pandemic, got 850,000 riders a day.
Isn't Seattle smaller?
Marginally. And it won't be. by then.
Oh, okay.
I
That
just
checks out.
I love the guts of Sound Transit.
Yeah.
They really just push for it. Like it would be tough to get that done anywhere else in this country.
Yeah, a lot of guts and a few light rail trains.
A lot of light rail trains. They're going to have a fleet of like 500 light rail
Oh
vehicles
my goodness.
to service the whole thing.
Why aren't they using normal trains?
Great question.
Isn't this part of the episode where we cover why the hell they're not using normal trains?
You mean problems section?
Yeah, the script says problems, Kyle.
Okay, problem. They're not using subway trains.
Yeah, and the original justification for this appeared to be a combination of A, not wanting to change the platforms in the downtown bus tunnel.
Which lousy
That can't
excuse.
have
Which is a lousy
That
excuse.
can't have been that expensive.
But you didn't have to spend money on it.
Great.
2, nobody else was doing it. That
Well-
appears to be the main crux of the reason, is that A, they didn't want to change the transit tunnel, and B,
All their buddies were doing light
all their
rail.
buddies were doing low floor light rail.
They could have at least done high floor light rail. That would have been fine.
Yeah, because that's just a metro.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a
I'm
light
at-
metro.
It's a metro with an overhead catenary, which makes all your tunnels unnecessarily large.
Most regular metros have overhead catenaries outside of like North America and Britain.
Oh, okay. Cool.
You can just have a really like short, catenary.
This is true. I've seen the Muni ones, and the
That are just like-
pantograph is
yeah,
like basically
yeah.
flat.
Except when it gets out on the surface, when it goes up to a more normal height. But yeah.
Yeah.
So, this weird choice, right? Especially when you're building 116 miles and eventually what will be the longest light rail line in the world, surpassing LA Metro's A line, which is now the longest light rail line in the world, which is 50 miles long. It'll be a 60-mile long light rail line.
Based.
Kind of fun and based, yeah. I agree.
And it goes at like S700 speeds.
55.
Can't those do 65?
It's built for 55.
What?
To be fair, the Washington Metro is also built for 55, so like...
Okay, but when was the Washington Metro built, and when are they building this? It should be built for like as
Should be built
fast
for
as-
65, but it's not.
It should be built for as fast as it is straight.
Yeah.
So, number one problem is capacity. Low-floor light rail vehicles have some inherent disadvantages, especially when it comes to passenger circulation and stuff, which
Yep.
actually decrease its overall capacity relative to even the exact same vehicle but with a high floor.
Yep. This is
Um,
well known.
We're probably shaving off, 100, 150 passengers per train in capacity by using low-floor light rail vehicles, which doesn't sound like a lot
But it is.
when you have an 800-person capacity train already, but when you're planning to carry 750,000 people a day, it's a lot.
And that's aside from the platforms only fitting 4-car trains,
Yeah.
which is a limitation of this particular model of low-floor light rail vehicle. They can only do 4 or 5 cars.
Yeah.
So maybe if they'd used regular trains, they could make the trains as long as they wanted.
Well, but then they would have to extend all the platforms that already exist for 4-car trains.
So
They,
why wouldn't they try and get open gangway trains? Because they're never going to be running less than 4 cars, are they?
Never again, probably.
so-
They briefly ran 3 cars during the height of the pandemic.
So-
and they were full.
yeah, maybe they'll just go for the new 100% low-floor trains that are just like a maintenance nightmare and
Inshallah.
have all the mechanical equipment in an infinitely deep purse somewhere.
in the TARDIS.
Yeah. And then they can just break every other day.
Yeah.
And it'll be fine.
Yeah, weird idea. Another problem is, as we discussed, speed. When you have a 60-mile long light rail line and it's only going to max out at 55, you're going to have a 2-hour trip. And this is
Yep.
your regional line.
And because it's basically completely grade separated except for the one weird street running section, there's no reason it should go slow.
Yeah, you should have built it for higher speeds. But
Should have built it for 90 or
That's
something.
crazy. If you're an operator on the line, you go all the way down, all the way back. It's lunchtime.
Yeah.
well, the plan is eventually to split it in half in downtown Seattle and kind of because it's going to look a little bit like in downtown Seattle an X with a single core tunnel segment. There will be one that goes off to the left, one that goes way north, one that doesn't go very far north. So the south line will run into the one that doesn't go very far north. And then the north line will run into a different one that goes south but not that far.
So there will just be an overlap between the north and the south line.
Yes.
All right. And with the frequencies they'll be running.
Well, that's actually another problem because there's going to be only one core tunnel on the whole thing. Which severely limits the amount of frequency you can run on each line.
Which would be
That's going to be very congested.
Which would be less problematic if they could just run bigger, longer trains.
Yes, but it is still going to be a problem.
True.
Unfortunately, the east-west line to Ballard or whatever will run through a separate tunnel. You're going to have this crazy, like, London-style Piccadilly Circus weird junction with, like, 3 different tunnels at, like, Pioneer Square or something. So it'll be wild when it's done, but... Yeah, so there are some interlining problems that may cause issues with capacity in the future, especially when you have such small trains.
This is what you get for using low-floor light rail technology.
Yep.
And then, frequency. So my contention here is that maybe another mode is needed to supplement this.
Really long light rail lines are the only form of rail rapid transit.
In the United States, that's correct. It's illegal to build everything else.
Everything is light rail.
We need that, that
like
picture of the North Korean defector lady, the meme where she says like something ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like, in the United States, you are not allowed to build metro. If you build anything other than light rail, they send you and your children to the camps. No, what I'm suggesting is that Sounder, a thing that already exists and is very popular, should be expanded to be a supplementary regional service to add both capacity and an option that doesn't take 2 hours.
Would BNSF let them because it's still running on BNSF track?
By the track.
Whoa, that's actually not a good
Problem
idea.
solved.
By the track.
Literally problem solved. And
They're
then
probably
they
Build them a
market.
bypass. I don't care.
Yeah.
I think they're probably in the market to sell anything.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Infrastructure, we don't want that word. American Railroad.
Yeah.
Low floor light rail.
Maybe we can have a seller part 2 on the West Coast.
Alternatively, they could buy like Muni S200 trains and then build all their new platforms with high floors, and all their low platforms can just have the stairs, but that's a very stupid idea.
No, that is a good idea because long term, in like 2050, when they realize this was a dumb idea, they'd have far fewer platforms to change to high
But
floor
that
and buy
messes up
real trains.
accessibility on a lot of the current platforms in the present day. So I would say just stick with what you got, honestly. I know, controversial. Yeah, I agree. So, in conclusion, Link Light Rail is an all-around great system with
Except
a lot of...
for the low floor light rail trains.
Okay, with a lot of room. It's better than Portland. It's better than Salt Lake City. It's better than LA. It's better than anywhere else that's building new transit at the moment
This is true.
in the United States.
And it's a fun ride.
And it goes places unlike Honolulu. So, which is opening tomorrow.
Great.
The useless section.
The useless
Yeah,
section.
you can go ride the bus to go look at it, and then ride the bus home.
The bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's even better. Oh wait, Link Light Rail. I'll restart since I was interrupted by the fact of low floor cars existing.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, you should be. Link Light Rail is an all-around great system with a lot of room for being made even better. For all of its flaws, Seattle is expanding transit on a scale rivaled by no other city in the U.S. except maybe L.A. So, therefore, good and based. And that's my conclusion.
I think that's a very fair conclusion, and I do agree.
You reckon they can build flying junctions better than LA?
Oh, they don't build flying junctions, they build flyovers,
There you go.
is the plan at least.
All right.
So
And fly unders and stuff.
the only thing with the
Oh,
problems-
I see what you mean. Yes, they can build flying junctions,
Unlike
LA.
LA.
The only thing with the problems we can definitively say is that at least it's not the monorail.
Yeah, this is
That
true.
is true. That would have been,
Because
in some ways, better, but also from like a maintenance perspective, forever worse.
it would have been a nightmare, and
Because
no monorail.
with
bad.
this system, the only really long-term problem is that the trains have to be low floor.
Is that the trains are low capacity?
There's
I
still
would-
room for innovation in low floor train technology, so maybe by 2044 when they plan to finish this, or by 2060 when they actually finish this.
2044 is the adjusted date.
Oh, okay. By 2050 when they actually finish this, low floor train technology will have gotten better.
Yeah, but monorail is too high floor. So,
He's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ain't no floor high enough. Ain't no monorail
It also
wide
doesn't
enough.
have enough rails. You'd have like half as many rails.
Yeah.
You
And
Yeah, instead of-
switching nightmare.
Instead of 232 track miles of light rail, you would you would only have.
Monorail subway.
That's actually a thing in China.
Oh,
Okay,
that's
not
funny.
break my brain.
Because China. So yeah, that's our conclusion. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube, and give us a follow and leave a rating on iTunes and /or Spotify. We also have a Patreon where people can get access to many benefits like early episodes, occasionally exclusive episodes, and merch. Anything else I'm missing in terms of... Oh, and our Discord.
Okay, which we actually talk a lot on, to be honest.
Uh-huh.
We've been chatty in there recently.
Mhm.
Go us.
And our patrons are Zach Adams at Super Duper Double Tracked Frontrunner Base Tunnel Logan tier, $69.69 a month. Say thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank you, Zach.
At regular Frontrunner tier, $10 a month, we have Curtis Herring, Devin Zander, Mike Christensen, and Phobos2390.
At our Redline tier, $5 a month, we have Brian Smith, Christopher Whaley, DJ
Hi, Will.
Watkins, Generic GT, Jacob Whitecotton, Reluctant LA Resident, Robert P. Walsh, and Scott Harris.
Thanks.
And at the blue line, increasingly uncompetitive as a very long light rail line, but it could be, we have Alex Dykelski, Ben Busath, Bradley Bondi, Elijah Kensler, Ethan McDonald, Evelyn, G4, Gonzo12, Jack Dean, Jesse Mayo, new patron, hello,
Hi.
John Heron Gorman, Martine Hecker Martinez, Matt Gray, Old Trolley, Seth, and at our green line tier,
Whoa, grinding. Patrick Salas,
Yeah.
long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah, you have that whole...
whole tier cornered.
Yeah.
I'm gonna when I make the new patron rail map in a couple weeks. You're just gonna have every single station on the green line. So congratulations.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you all. We do appreciate it. We've been able to do some stuff, and it's nice having funding. So,
Yeah.
Funding.
Yeah.
Metro Season 1 is officially under editorial mode now,
yep.
Wow.
We have all of the footage.
and
so,
Metro Season 2 is in planning.
Cool.
Yeah,
so-
and because of your generous money giving,
Yeah, and
I can
as-
get a nice microphone when I move.
Yeah,
so we
that's
can
true.
keep the podcast going.
Yeah, because Alex is moving pretty soon. It will be live from the Marriott Library at the University of Utah
And
Alex's house in Logan.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then soon after that, actually, well, not soon, but like less than a year after that, it'll be live from the Marriott Library at the University of Utah, Alex's house in Logan, and 1 Market Street in San Francisco.
Accurate.
No, it'll probably be like, I don't know, 6942 420 Burnside, Portland, Oregon, or whatever.
Or wherever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Insert place.
So, we'll see.
Place, comma, West Coast.
Or East Coast, maybe, I don't
Place,
know.
comma, coast. Comma,
Place-
United States.
Place, comma, coast, comma, United States, yeah.
Well, who knows? Maybe the whatever Kaiser Library at USU has a recording studio.
Maybe,
You should
yeah.
check
I should look into it because that would make my life easier.
Yeah.
Live from the Marriott Library at the University of Utah, and the Kaiser or Kaiser?
I think it's the Merrill Kaiser Library.
Merrill Kaiser Library at Utah State University, the inferior school. This is the Red Line Podcast.
Yeah, I wouldn't say inferior. But
A different school.
different school.
Inferior.
That's I'll take that.
Depends.
U supremacy.
Depends on whether or not you're a cow.
Owned.
Yeah, okay. I can't argue. It is an ag school. Let's see. Is it the Merrill Kaiser?
I don't know. You're gonna have to learn about all the rich people in Logan.
Libraries.
There are rich people in Logan?
My dentist is moving to Logan.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
who donates all the
Yeah.
buildings?
Meryl Kaiser.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a weird.
Yeah, and ours isn't.
Yeah, their library is like even worse brutalism than ours is.
Okay, look at the inside though. I kind of like brutalist if it's done right. So,
Oh, that's pretty nice.
it's pretty nice on the inside.
I was gonna say like the outside looks a little.
It,
The more conch they
But,
create, the
no,
more
it's
brutalism
the
are.
more
it is,
conk on my crate till I brutalism.
but it is nice. Yeah, it's really drab in winter. But
So is this.
What, the whole campus or just the library?
all of Logan,
Yeah,
the entire
quite
city.
depressing in Logan in winter.
But they also have
should get more
something similar to our storage system here.
Oh.
Cool.
They-
Hey, climate change will change that. Don't worry about it.
Well, I was gonna say Logan should get more ice skating rinks on soulless plazas.
We have that ice skating rink funded by I think Dolores Eccles, who also
Cool.
did a lot of buildings on this campus.
Do you like ice skating?
No.
Oh.
If you do, well,
Do you like ice skating?
It's fun.
There's the county sports facility over in Garsman. We should go.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like $7 between admission and skate rentals.
That's
I
about
may
how much
try
it is in
but
Logan.
it scares me a lot. So.
See, it scares me a lot too. But
Because if
don't know.
you fall, you might accidentally like slice open your entire face.
You mostly just hurt your
well,
butt.
can your feet reach your face? Or are you assuming you break your legs?
I'm flexible.
Okay.